This is, as we explained yesterday and outlined clearly, a budget for the banks, a budget for the landlords, and a budget for the developers. It is not an exaggeration to say that there is less than nothing for renters, less than nothing for workers, and less than nothing for pensioners, carers, and the unemployed, all of whom will be worse off in real terms this time next year because what's been given is less than the rate of inflation. I did a general speech yesterday. Today I want to go into detail in relation to a couple of aspects, because when you delve into the budget, you see just how much that is the case. And to start with the issue of fuel allowance. So the Minister and the Government made much of the fact of giving an extra €5, an amount that is not enough to cover the extra costs of fuel. You can do the maths. It's about a third of what's necessary in the context of fuel costs going up by €500. So the Minister said, to directly address this, I'm increasing the weekly rate of the fuel allowance by €5. This increase will apply from midnight tonight. He went on to say, I'm also increasing to €120 the amount of means allowed above the maximum state pension contributory rate for the fuel allowance. What he didn't say there was, when is that going to be introduced? Clearly people were intended to be left with the impression that, just like the rate, that the means test is also increasing immediately. I've been dealing with a guy who is a pensioner, his wife's a pensioner, that's the income they have, they have a small amount of extra income, and between them they are €5 over the current means test. And then he heard the news that, OK, they've increased it by €20, great, they'll be able to afford fuel this winter. But what did I hear from the Department of Social Protection today? That the new means test will not apply until the 6th of January next year. That is cruel, that is mean, it is downright scabby. Not to just say that we're going to allow people to pay for their fuel from now. To say that he has to wait until January before he can get fuel allowance. What is he and other people in his position meant to do? How are they meant to pay their fuel this winter? Why are they expected to wait until January? I would urge the Government, even at this late stage, to change that, to say that even that limited change in allowance, which still excludes those in illness benefit, excludes those on PUP, that change should be brought in immediately. Second point, very quickly, is in relation to Minister Ryan, who looked very pleased with himself yesterday and today with claims of green fingerprints on the budget. But actually the Minister was caught red-handed proposing a dramatic 18% cut in the PSO subsidy for public transport. Last year the Government gave €659 million in the public service obligation payments to CIE, etc. Next year, Minister Ryan wants to give only €539 million. A massive €120 million cut in funding for public transport. A so-called Green Minister taking money away from public transport. On top of that is the cut. On top of that cut to current spending on public transport is what certainly looks like in the budget books a massive cut in capital investment. Massive cuts in the sustainable mobility, carbon reduction and public transport, amounting to an incredible €1.69 billion compared to last year. How on earth has a Green Minister for Transport signed off on such swinging cuts? Finally, I want to deal with the question of the tax credit for the gaming industry. It's a growing industry in Ireland, but it's an industry, and there was no mention of this by the Minister, but where working conditions are very poor. There's huge pressure on people to work very, very long hours, particularly at crunch time, where only 15% get paid for overtime. 15% is those who are on less than a living wage. The vast majority of them don't get any pension contribution from their employer. And the Minister says, it's in the budget book, that we're going to have a condition of it to be quality employment like with the film industry. But Minister, it cannot be the same tick box exercise that they say, oh yes, we'll abide by the laws in relation to employment, and then they get the tax credits. At the very minimum, in order to be able to avail of them, there needs to be a commitment to abide by all of the WRC codes of practice, to pay at least the living wage, to guarantee staff's right to disconnect, paid overtime and proper pension provision. Thank you.